Adam Stone stood in awe as he gazed upon the grand hall of the Xenovarian Empire's summit. He had never imagined that one day a human would be invited to such an event, let alone be given a place among the galaxy's most powerful leaders. The room was filled with beings of unimaginable size, glowing skin, and intricate alien armor. There were towering figures from distant planets, their eyes shining with wisdom and age. Adam felt like an outsider, a simple soldier from Earth who had somehow been pulled into this vast and strange world. The Xenovarian Empire had always been a symbol of strength, known throughout the galaxy for its advanced technology and military might. Yet despite their power, the Xenovarians had never fully trusted humans. Earth was a relatively young planet compared to the empires surrounding it, and humans were seen as unpredictable, both resilient and dangerous, yet still naive in the eyes of many. Adam, however, had earned this invitation after his actions in a galactic conflict where he led the defense of a neutral system. His bravery and quick thinking had saved countless lives, making Earth's position in the galaxy much more respected than before. He stood at the back of the room, unsure of what to do or say, his mind racing. The leaders and delegates of different planets mingled in small groups, exchanging knowledge and strategies. Adam knew his place here was fragile. He was an outsider, a human among the galaxy's finest. What could he offer to these ancient beings? Suddenly, the doors at the far end of the room opened, and the entire room fell silent. Entering through the threshold was the alien queen, Illyria. She was tall and regal, her presence commanding attention. Her skin was a deep, shimmering shade of violet, and her eyes, a piercing silver, glowed with a knowing, almost otherworldly light. Illyria was not just the ruler of the Xenovarian Empire. She was a symbol of power and authority throughout the galaxy. As she made her way toward the center of the room, the crowd parted, giving her the space to walk with the grace of a queen. Her movements were deliberate, and yet there was an undeniable strength in the way she carried herself. Adam watched her closely, wondering what kind of leader she was. What was it like to rule such a vast empire? When Illyria reached the center of the room, she turned to face the crowd, her gaze sweeping over each of the delegates. Her voice, when she spoke, was both commanding and calming, the sound of a ruler who had the world's attention. Today, she began, we gather not as individuals, but as representatives of our people. We share knowledge, strategies, and alliances, for only together can we thrive. But today, I find myself intrigued by one among you. Adam felt a strange sensation as her gaze seemed to lock with his. It was as if the entire room had disappeared, and he was the only one in her sight. He held his breath, unsure of what she would say next. You, she said, her voice cool and measured, are the one they call Adam Stone, the human who defended a world not his own. You have the strongest heart in this room, human. The word struck Adam like a sudden wave. He was not prepared for this. Illyria's reputation as a ruler was built on strength, and now she was complimenting him, a mere human, in front of the galaxy's most powerful beings. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. What could he say? Illyria's words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. He knew this moment was important, maybe more important than anything that had come before. The queen's gaze softened for just a moment, before she turned and continued her speech. Adam stood there, his mind still spinning. What had she meant by those words? Why had she singled him out? He didn't have answers, but one thing was certain: his life, and the fate of humanity, was about to change forever. The summit took an unexpected turn that day. Adam Stone had just begun to process Illyria's words when a loud crash echoed through the grand hall. The lights flickered, and a sudden wave of panic spread among the delegates. Alien leaders scrambled, some drawing weapons, others rushing to the exits. Adam, still standing at the back of the room, barely had time to react. The doors at the far end of the hall burst open, and a group of armed assailants stormed in, their faces covered by dark helmets. They wore the insignia of the Fallen Star, a notorious intergalactic terrorist group. These rebels had been known for their violent opposition to the galactic order, and now they had chosen the summit as the stage for their attack. The room erupted in chaos as the attackers opened fire, sending the alien leaders ducking for cover. Adam's heart raced, but he didn't freeze. Instinct kicked in, and his military training took over. He ducked behind a column and quickly assessed the situation. There were too many of them, and they were well armed. Yet he knew one thing: he couldn't just hide and wait for help. Without thinking, Adam sprinted across the room, moving with precision and speed, his heart pounding in his chest. He grabbed a fallen blaster from one of the unconscious delegates and took aim at the attackers. His mind was clear. He had one goal: protect the people in the room. He focused, took a deep breath, and fired. The blaster hummed as it discharged, taking down one of the assailants who had been trying to reach the Queen. Illyria, still standing near the center of the room, was in danger. One of the attackers was heading directly toward her, a weapon raised. Adam's heart skipped a beat as he saw the danger. He couldn't let her be taken. He wouldn't. He dashed forward, dodging blasts from both sides. The room seemed to slow as he sprinted across the floor, his focus fixed solely on Illyria. The terrorist was closing in on her, but Adam was faster. With a quick, precise movement, he tackled the attacker to the ground, knocking the weapon from his hand. The Queen, her silver eyes wide with surprise, stepped back, but Adam held his ground. He knew she could handle herself, but in that moment, he needed to be her protector. He knew the Xenovarian Empire was powerful, but nothing could compare to the strength of someone willing to fight for what mattered. With his quick thinking and bravery, Adam managed to disable the remaining attackers one by one, using a mix of tactics and ingenuity. The room, once filled with panic, began to quiet as the threat was neutralized. The assailants had been taken down, but the silence was deafening. Adam was breathing heavily, sweat beading on his forehead, but he didn't care. The fight was over. As the last of the attackers was secured, Illyria walked toward Adam, her regal presence almost overwhelming. She looked at him not with the usual disdain humans often received from aliens, but with something entirely different, a respect, even admiration. "You risk your life to protect me," she said quietly, her voice carrying across the now calm room. "Not many beings would have done the same. I underestimated you, human." Adam was still catching his breath, his heart racing. He had acted on instinct, driven by the desire to protect those around him. But hearing Illyria's words made the adrenaline rush all the more intense. He had never expected to hear such respect from the Queen of the Xenovarian Empire, especially after their first encounter. "I couldn't let anything happen to you," Adam replied simply. "We're all in this together." Illyria nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on him. "Perhaps we are." In that moment, something shifted between them. The Queen of the Xenovarian Empire, known for her cold, calculated leadership, saw humanity in a new light. Adam had proven that humans were not just a force to be reckoned with. They were a force of heart, of courage, and of loyalty. And Illyria was beginning to understand that strength in a way she never had before. The summit had been thrown into chaos, but now, as the room calmed, Adam Stone found himself standing at the center of attention. His heart still pounded in his chest from the adrenaline, but the feeling of danger had passed. The sound of blaster fire and the shouts of alien leaders were replaced with hushed whispers and wary glances. It was clear that the situation was far from normal. Despite the violence that had just unfolded, Adam felt strangely calm. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. In that moment, he realized something had changed. Something had shifted within Illyria, too. She had approached him after the attackers had been taken care of, her silver eyes observing him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Adam stood in the center of the room, his hands still slightly trembling from the rush of battle, as Illyria walked toward him with that same quiet grace that had commanded attention from everyone else in the hall. "Human," Illyria said, her voice soft but firm. I need to speak with you, privately. The room grew quieter, and Adam could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on him. As Illyria led him away from the crowd, he couldn't help but wonder what she wanted to discuss. He had already fought for her once, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this was different. Illyria had never shown such genuine interest in him, a mere human, before. What was going through her mind? They walked into a small, quiet chamber, far from the noise of the summit. The walls were lined with alien technology that hummed softly, a constant reminder of Illyria's power. She motioned for Adam to sit across from her, and he did so, still unsure of what to expect. For a moment, there was only silence. Illyria's gaze was intense as she studied him, her silver eyes locking onto his with a quiet intensity that made him feel vulnerable, yet strangely empowered. "You surprised me," Illyria said, breaking the silence. "I expected you to hide, like the others. But you didn't. You fought back. You risked everything for me, and for those in that room." Adam shifted uncomfortably in his seat, unsure of how to respond. "I wasn't going to just stand there and do nothing," he said simply. "I'm human. We don't just give up when things get tough. We fight." Illyria raised an eyebrow, a small but noticeable smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "That much is clear." She leaned back in her chair, still watching him closely. "But you don't understand, do you? What you did, what you showed today, is something I haven't seen from many beings in this galaxy. Certainly not from one of your kind." Adam swallowed, trying to make sense of her words. He wasn't used to being praised, especially not by someone as powerful as Illyria. "I just did what anyone would have done in my place." Illyria shook her head, her expression becoming more serious. "No, Adam. Not anyone would have done that. Many would have run, or hid, or waited for the situation to resolve itself. But you didn't. You fought, not just for yourself, but for everyone in that room, including me." Her words hung in the air, heavier than anything Adam had ever felt. Illyria was no longer speaking to him like a ruler to a subject. She was speaking to him as an equal, perhaps even someone she admired, and for the first time since arriving at the summit, Adam felt a strange sense of pride. "You have more than just strength, human," Illyria continued, her voice soft but steady. "You have heart. And that, above all else, is something I find fascinating." Adam's chest tightened. This wasn't just a compliment, it was an invitation. Illyria was beginning to see him in a different light. What he had done today, his willingness to risk everything, had left an impression on her, and in some small way, it seemed to be changing the way she viewed humanity. For the first time, Adam allowed himself to hope. He wasn't just a soldier caught up in the galactic power games. He was something more. Something Illyria had never expected. "I don't know why you're saying this, Illyria," Adam said, his voice unsure. "I'm just one human. There are billions more like me. Maybe we don't seem like much in a galaxy full of powerful beings, but—" Illyria cut him off with a sharp but gentle motion. "You are more than enough," she said firmly. "And you will prove that, Adam. I can see it in you. Humans have a strength unlike anything I've encountered before. Perhaps it is time I stop underestimating you." Her words, simple as they were, carried a weight that left Adam speechless. He had done something more today than he had ever realized. He had shown Illyria something she had never expected: true, unwavering courage, and a heart that was stronger than any weapon. And for the first time in a long time, Adam felt like he belonged in this galaxy. He was no longer just a human among aliens. He was an ally, a protector, and someone who had earned Illyria's respect. And that was only the beginning. The quiet of the room faded as Illyria turned to Adam, her gaze sharp yet thoughtful. The summit, which had been a place of diplomatic exchange, had now become something entirely different. An arena where trust and power would be tested. Illyria had always known that the galaxy was full of danger, but she had never been in a situation quite like this. For the first time in years, she found herself looking to a human, Adam Stone, not just as a soldier, but as someone with unique strength. The sound of footsteps approaching the chamber door broke the silence. It was one of her most trusted advisors, Commander Talak, a tall and imposing Xenovarian officer. His armor gleamed under the soft lighting as he entered, a look of urgency on his face. "Your Majesty," Talak said, his voice clipped with tension. "The fallen star has attacked again. They have taken a key sector of our space. The situation is dire. We must respond immediately." Illyria's eyes hardened. The fallen star had been a thorn in her side for years. This time, their attacks were not just on a remote system. They were hitting Xenovarian territory directly. The balance of power was at risk, and Illyria knew she could not afford to show weakness. She turned to Adam, her thoughts clear in her expression. "You're not just here as a guest anymore, human. The galaxy is at war, and you will play a role in this. Will you fight alongside us?" Adam, who had been standing quietly, processing the conversation, felt his heart race. This was not what he had expected. He had come to the summit as an observer, not as a soldier in a galactic conflict. But the urgency in Illyria's voice was enough to make him realize that this was no longer about just attending a meeting. It was about the survival of entire worlds. "I don't know if I'm ready for something like this," Adam said, his voice hesitant. "I'm a soldier, not a general. I'm not familiar with your war strategies." Illyria looked at him intently, her silver eyes piercing through his doubts. "Then we will teach you. The way of the Xenovarians is not unlike your own. It's about strength, courage, and adaptability. And I have already seen that you have these qualities." Adam felt a surge of determination. He had already proven his bravery, but this was different. He was now standing on the front lines of a galactic conflict, a place he had never imagined he'd be. But if Illyria believed in him, maybe he could prove that humanity was more than just a fledgling species. Talak, ever the professional, gave a curt nod. "We need you to act as a leader, Adam. You have the tactical mind. Your people have already proven that when it comes to innovation, humans are unmatched." A part of Adam wanted to refuse, but he couldn't. Illyria was right. He had already shown courage, and now he had a chance to show that humanity's greatest strength was not in its weapons, but in its ability to adapt and overcome impossible odds. It was time to prove it, not just to Illyria, but to the galaxy. Adam straightened, the weight of the moment sinking in. "I'll do it. I'll fight." Illyria nodded approvingly. "Then prepare yourself, Adam. This is only the beginning." The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation settled over them all. Adam had agreed, but he knew this was just the start of a much larger test. The galaxy was at war, and he had to rise to the challenge. Illyria, the proud and powerful queen, had placed her trust in him. Now he had to earn that trust, not just with his courage, but with his mind. Talak left the room to begin preparations for the battle ahead, leaving Illyria and Adam alone. Illyria turned to face him, her expression more solemn than ever. "You have made the right choice, human," she said softly. "I will need you by my side, not just as an ally, but as someone I can trust. The trial ahead will be harsh, but it will show us both what we are truly capable of." Adam stood tall, determined. "I'm ready." In that moment, Adam knew this war would change him forever. It was no longer just about survival. It was about proving to the galaxy that humanity, despite its youth, could stand shoulder to shoulder with the strongest civilizations. It was about showing Illyria and the universe that humans had a heart that could not be easily defeated. And in that heart, there was strength beyond measure. The war had begun in earnest. Adam Stone stood alongside Illyria as their forces prepared for the upcoming battle. The vast command center of the Xenovarian Empire hummed with activity. Soldiers moved quickly, coordinating with their alien allies, while ships loaded weapons and supplies for the strike. Despite the chaos around him, Adam felt oddly calm. He had gone from being a soldier on Earth to now standing at the helm of an intergalactic war, fighting alongside an alien queen. And yet there was still a part of him that was unsure. Illyria, ever the composed ruler, walked through the command center with purpose. Her eyes glowed with a quiet intensity, but Adam could sense the strain beneath her calm exterior. She had been through countless battles, yet this one felt different. The fallen star was not just any enemy. It was a ruthless force determined to bring down everything the Xenovarians had built. "You're not nervous?" Adam asked, following her as she moved through the crowd of officers and soldiers. Illyria glanced at him, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Nervous?" she repeated, almost amused. "I have fought in wars across the galaxy. The chaos is a part of life. The only thing that matters now is winning." Adam nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this time was different. He had fought on Earth. But this was an entirely different scale. He was leading soldiers from countless worlds, all with their own strategies, their own ways of fighting. He wasn't sure if he had what it took to command them, but he had to try. As the war continued to unfold, Adam found himself in the midst of several key battles. He worked closely with Illyria, observing her leadership style. She was a brilliant strategist, moving her pieces on the galactic chessboard with precision. But even with her strength, Adam noticed how much she relied on those around her. She didn't act alone. The trust she placed in her people was something Adam admired. It was a lesson he would take to heart. The first major clash with the fallen star came sooner than expected. The enemy fleet was waiting just beyond the borders of Xenovarian space, ready to strike. Adam stood on the bridge of a Xenovarian warship, watching the stars streak by as they moved into position. His heart raced as the reality of war settled in. "Stay focused." Illyria's voice came through his comms, steady and calm. "We are fighting for our future, for the survival of this empire." Adam took a deep breath, steadying his nerves. The battle began with a flash of blaster fire, the two fleets colliding in a sea of chaos. Explosions rocked the ships as the two sides clashed, each determined to prove their dominance. Adam's heart pounded in his chest as he ordered his troops to engage. He had never fought like this before. There were no simple tactics. Every decision had to be swift and precise. As the battle raged on, Adam found himself caught in the thick of it. He dodged enemy fire, coordinated with the other ships, and kept the troops in line. But amidst the madness, something began to change within him. The fear and uncertainty that had clouded his mind before started to fade. He realized that he wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. He was fighting for Illyria, for her people, and for the future of the galaxy. In the heat of the moment, Adam's focus sharpened. He saw the gaps in the fallen star's strategy, the places where they were vulnerable. Using his human ingenuity, he devised a plan to exploit those weaknesses. With Illyria's approval, he directed his forces to strike with precision, taking down key targets that crippled the enemy's ability to fight back. The battle ended in a hard-fought victory. The fallen star was forced to retreat, but the cost was high. Many ships had been damaged and lives had been lost. Adam stood on the bridge, watching as the remains of the enemy fleet fled. His heart sank as he thought about the lives lost, both on his side and the enemy's. Illyria appeared beside him, her expression unreadable. "You did well, Adam," she said, her voice low but filled with a rare warmth. "You showed the galaxy that humans can lead, that you can be trusted in the heat of battle." Adam didn't know how to respond. He had led, but he didn't feel like a hero. He had simply done what had to be done. But Illyria's words, her recognition, meant more to him than he had expected. "I couldn't have done it without you," Adam replied. "Your leadership, it taught me how to trust others, to rely on them just as you rely on me." Illyria nodded. "Trust is the foundation of any alliance. And you, human, have shown that your heart is just as strong as your courage." Adam's chest swelled with pride. The road ahead would be long and filled with challenges, but for the first time, he felt like he truly belonged in this fight. Humanity was no longer a bystander in this galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. And Adam. The battle had been fierce, but victory was theirs. The fallen star had been pushed back, and the Xenavarian forces had secured a significant win. However, the cost of war was clear. Adam Stone stood on the observation deck of the flagship, watching the stars stretch endlessly across the dark void of space. The victory felt hollow. Too many had fallen in battle, and the price of peace seemed high. Behind him, Illyria entered the room, her steps as graceful and silent as ever. Her presence, despite the weight of the war, had a calm that Adam envied. She moved toward the large window beside him, her eyes following the distant lights of the fleet as it regrouped. "War never leaves you unscathed, Adam," Illyria said softly, her voice betraying a hint of sadness. "Not even the strongest hearts remain untouched." Adam turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "I know. I've seen it. The faces of those who didn't make it out. I can't stop thinking about them." Illyria nodded, her eyes distant as she stared into the depths of space. "It's the burden of leadership. It weighs on those who stand at the front, those who take responsibility for others' lives. But you?" She paused and turned to face him. "You carry that burden better than most." Adam looked at her, surprised by her words. "I don't feel like I'm carrying it well. I've lost men, good people, and He stopped, unsure of how to continue. "I'm not sure how to live with that." The silence between them stretched. Illyria's gaze softened, and for a moment, she looked less like the powerful queen she was and more like a woman carrying the weight of the galaxy's expectations. "You'll never be free of it," she said quietly. "None of us are. But what you choose to do with that weight, how you carry it, is what defines you." Adam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He had never thought of leadership in that way. On Earth, it had always been about survival, about winning the fight. But here, in this vast galaxy, survival wasn't enough. There was something more, something Illyria had been trying to teach him all along. It was about trust, about compassion, about knowing when to fight and when to pause, to reflect on what they were truly fighting for. "I've seen you lead with strength, Illyria," Adam said, his voice steady. "But I never realized the cost of that strength until now." Illyria's eyes met his, and in them, Adam saw something different, a depth of experience that only came from years of ruling, from facing endless challenges and losses. "I lead not because I am the strongest, Adam. I lead because I know that strength is not enough. It's the heart, the trust we place in those around us, that holds us together. Without that, everything else is meaningless." Adam nodded slowly, absorbing her words. He had always thought strength was what mattered most, the ability to fight, to win, to survive. But Illyria had shown him that strength without heart could lead to destruction. Now, he understood that being a true leader meant embracing both, the strength to fight and the wisdom to care for those who fought beside him. Illyria turned back toward the window, her posture still regal but more reflective than before. "We will face more battles, Adam, more losses. The fallen star will not rest, and neither will our enemies. But what we have, what we fight for, is worth it. We fight for a future, for the people we protect, for the ones who still believe in something better." Adam joined her by the window, looking out at the fleet once more. "I'm with you, Illyria. I'll keep fighting. For them, for humanity, for all of us." Illyria's gaze softened, and for a moment, Adam saw the quiet appreciation in her eyes. "You've proven your worth to me, Adam Stone. Not with your strength, but with your heart. And that is something no one can take from you." They stood in silence, watching the stars. The future was uncertain, and the war was far from over. But for the first time, Adam felt a sense of peace. He had a purpose, and the path ahead, though difficult, was one he was ready to walk. The war had been relentless, and the toll it had taken on both sides was evident. Adam Stone stood on the balcony of the Xenovarian command ship, looking out at the galaxy spread before him. He had grown accustomed to the sounds of battle, blasters, engines, and the distant hum of the fleet. But tonight, there was only silence, the calm before the storm. The fallen star had regrouped, and their next assault was only a matter of time. Adam felt the weight of everything he had learned in the past months pressing down on him. He had fought beside Illyria, led troops, and faced enemies far more powerful than anything Earth had encountered. But now, as the tension in the air grew thicker, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that something important was about to change. "You're thinking too much," a voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see Illyria approaching. She looked as poised as ever, but there was something different in her eyes, a quiet understanding, as if she had sensed his inner conflict. "I can't help it," Adam replied, his voice low. "There's so much at stake, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to make the decisions that could change everything." Illyria stopped beside him, her gaze following the stars. "None of us are ever fully ready, Adam. We make the choices we can, and then we live with the consequences." Adam sighed, feeling the familiar weight of uncertainty in his chest. "I've led men into battle, faced impossible odds. But this is different. I'm not just fighting for Earth anymore. I'm fighting for a galaxy, for civilizations that I barely understand. How do I know I'm making the right choices?" Illyria's eyes softened. "Because you're willing to ask that question. Because you're not blind to the weight of what's happening. That's what makes you a leader. You have the heart to question, to care. Not everyone does." Adam looked at her, surprised by the warmth in her words. "I've seen you lead, Illyria. You make decisions with certainty. You seem so sure of yourself. I don't know if I can ever be like that." Illyria's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "You don't have to be like me. You have your own strength, Adam, your heart. And that, above all else, is why I trust you." The words hung in the air, heavier than any weapon Adam had ever held. Illyria, the ruler of an empire, was trusting him. Trusting a human, someone who had once been a stranger to her, someone who had only recently stepped onto the galactic stage. Trust. Adam repeated, almost incredulously. "You trust me?" "Yes," Illyria said firmly. "I trust you with my people, with this war, and with my future." Adam felt his heart race at her words. The weight of her trust was both humbling and terrifying. He had always believed in his ability to fight, to survive, but trust. That was something different. To lead, to truly lead, meant relying on others, on their strength, on their hearts. Illyria had shown him that. "I don't take that lightly, Illyria," Adam said, his voice steady now. "I'll fight for you. For this empire. For the galaxy." Illyria gave him a nod of approval. "Then it's settled. The next battle will be crucial. But whatever happens, we fight together. No one stands alone." Adam's chest swelled with pride. For the first time, he truly understood what Illyria had been trying to teach him. Leadership wasn't about having all the answers or always being right. It was about the willingness to trust, to make difficult choices, and to stand by those you led. As the two of them stood in silence, the galaxy stretched out before them, full of both danger and possibility. Adam knew the road ahead would not be easy. The fallen star was still out there, waiting to strike again. But he no longer felt alone in this fight. He had Illyria's trust, and perhaps more importantly, he had learned to trust himself. With that, Adam turned to face Illyria. "Let's get ready," he said. "We have a galaxy to save." Illyria smiled, the bond between them stronger than ever. "Together," she agreed. The time had come. The quiet before the storm had ended, and now the fleet of the Xenovarian Empire was preparing for the final confrontation with the fallen star. Adam Stone stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking out at the vast expanse of space. His heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. The decision to fight for a galaxy was no longer just a distant concept. It was reality. He wasn't just leading humans anymore. He was leading allies from every corner of the galaxy, a united force that stood together against a common enemy. Illyria walked beside him, her usual calm and composed demeanor unwavering despite the gravity of the situation. She had been by his side through every battle, each one strengthening their bond and trust. Now, as they prepared for what could be the final fight, Adam felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. "We've prepared as best we can," Illyria said, her voice steady. "The fallen star will be relentless, but so are we. We must fight with everything we have. For the future of the galaxy, for every civilization that still believes in peace." Adam nodded, the weight of her words sinking deep into him. This wasn't just about victory anymore. It was about securing a future where the galaxy could live in harmony instead of fear. It was a future he was now willing to fight for, no matter the cost. As the Xenavarian fleet moved into position, Adam felt the familiar thrill of battle course through him. The energy in the air was palpable. Crew members moved quickly, finalizing calculations, checking systems, and ensuring everything was in place. The moment of truth was upon them. "Commander Stone," Talek's voice came through the comm, snapping Adam's focus back to the task at hand. "We're in position, ready to engage." Adam glanced at Illyria, who gave him a firm nod of approval. "You know what to do, human," she said, her eyes filled with quiet trust. "Lead them." Adam didn't hesitate. The strategy they had developed was simple but effective. They would strike fast and hard, hitting the fallen star's vulnerable points before they could regroup. Time was their enemy. The longer they took, the more chance their enemies had to organize a counterattack. There would be no room for mistakes. With a quick command, Adam directed the fleet into action. The massive warships in the Xenavarian fleet engaged their engines, breaking through the darkness of space as they charged toward the enemy. The fallen star's fleet appeared out of the void, large and menacing, their ships like shadows in the distance. The battle began with a thunderous explosion as the two fleets collided, energy blasts lighting up the dark expanse like fireworks. Adam's heart pounded as the reality of war hit him. This was it. No more simulations, no more preparation. Lives would be lost, but they had to fight. Adam was in constant communication with his officers, directing firepower to key enemy vessels. His mind raced, analyzing the battlefield, looking for weaknesses, and exploiting them. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a leader. He was guiding this fight, not just reacting to it. Illyria fought alongside him, her leadership unwavering, as she commanded the Xenavarian forces with precision. She gave orders, calculated risks, and acted with the wisdom that only someone of her experience could. Yet despite her power, she never stood in the way of Adam's decisions. She trusted him completely. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. Adam's quick thinking, combined with Illyria's strength, began to break the fallen star's lines. The enemy fleet, once so sure of their victory, was starting to falter. But just as victory seemed within reach, a massive explosion rocked the flagship. The ship shook violently, sending crew members scrambling for cover. Adam's heart stopped. He looked up at the monitor to see the source of the explosion. The fallen star's flagship had launched a devastating counterattack. "Brace for impact," Illyria shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The Xenavarian fleet retaliated, but the damage had already been done. The battle wasn't over. The stakes were higher than ever. Adam's eyes met Illyria's, and for a brief moment, he saw the same determination in her eyes that had first caught his attention. She wasn't going to give up, and neither was he. "Hold the line." Adam barked into the comms. "We fight until the end. We fight for the future." With his command, the Xenavarian fleet surged forward, rallying under his leadership. The battle was far from over, but Adam Stone knew one thing for sure. They would not surrender. Not now. Not ever. The chaos of the battle was overwhelming. Adam Stone stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes scanning the battlefield through the large viewport. The sounds of combat raged around him, blaster fire, explosions, and the steady hum of the Xenavarian warships. His heart pounded, but he kept his focus sharp. The fallen star fleet was faltering, their ships retreating in disarray. However, there was no time to celebrate. The tide of battle could change at any moment. "Commander Stone, we've broken through their outer defenses," Talek's voice came through the comms. "But their flagship is still heavily armed. We need to finish this quickly." Adam nodded. The Fallen Star's flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed anything they had, still posed a serious threat. Its weapons were devastating, and if they didn't act fast, it could turn the battle back in the enemy's favor. "Prepare for a final strike," Adam said firmly, his voice cutting through the noise. "We'll hit their weak points and force them to retreat." Illyria's voice followed closely behind, calm and determined. "You're not alone, Adam. We'll strike together." Adam's heart swelled at her words. Over the past few months, he had grown to trust Illyria like no one else. She was the queen of an empire, and yet she stood by his side as an equal. Together, they had proven that the strength of humanity, combined with the power of the Xenavarians, was something the galaxy had never seen before. "Let's do this," Adam said, turning toward the view screen as the Xenavarian fleet positioned itself for the final assault. The flagship of the Fallen Star loomed large in the distance, its dark silhouette casting an ominous shadow across the field of stars. But Adam was no longer intimidated. With his guidance, the Xenavarian fleet had proven itself capable of overcoming even the most powerful opponents. This would be no different. He gave the order, and the Xenavarian ships surged forward, their weapons locked onto the flagship. In perfect formation, they unleashed a barrage of firepower. The energy beams cut through the darkness like lightning, hitting the flagship with precise accuracy. The Fallen Star retaliated, launching its own counterattacks, but the Xenavarian fleet was prepared. They knew the weakness of the flagship, and they exploited it without hesitation. The flagship's shields flickered, then collapsed under the relentless assault. Adam's heart raced as the final blow struck, sending the Fallen Star's flagship into a catastrophic explosion. The shockwave rocked their ships, but Adam didn't flinch. The battle was over. "We did it," Illyria's voice came through the comms, filled with a quiet relief. Adam couldn't believe it. The enemy had been defeated. The galaxy had been saved, at least for now. But as he looked around at the damage to their own fleet, the lives lost, and the cost of victory, he knew this wasn't the end. This battle, while crucial, was only a part of something much larger. Illyria appeared beside him on the bridge, her expression both proud and solemn. "You've proven yourself, Adam, not just as a soldier, but as a leader. Humanity's place in the galaxy is secure because of your courage." Adam met her gaze, humbled by her words. "I couldn't have done it without you, Illyria. You showed me what it means to lead, what it means to trust others." Illyria smiled, a rare, soft expression. "And now you understand that strength isn't just in battle. It's in the hearts of those who fight beside you. And you, Adam, have the strongest heart I've ever seen." The words left Adam speechless. The weight of the battle, the lives lost, and the responsibility ahead were heavy. But in that moment, he realized that the true strength of humanity lay not in weapons or technology, but in their hearts. It was the willingness to stand together, to trust each other, and to fight for a better future. "We'll rebuild," Adam said, looking out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. "Together." Illyria placed a hand on his shoulder, a symbol of the bond they had forged in battle. "Yes, together. The galaxy is ours to protect, and as long as we stand united, no enemy will ever break us." The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. The future of the galaxy, of humanity, and of the Xenavarian Empire was now in their hands. Adam knew that there would be more challenges ahead, but with the trust and strength they had gained, He was ready for whatever came next. The aftermath of the battle was quieter than Adam Stone had expected. The sounds of war had faded, leaving only the hum of the engines and the soft footsteps of soldiers as they moved through the Xenovarian flagship. The fallen star had been defeated, but the cost was clear. The Xenovarian fleet was battered, and while victory had been achieved, many had lost their lives. Adam stood on the balcony overlooking the war-torn spaceport. The stars outside were peaceful now, a far cry from the chaos that had unfolded only days ago. Yet, as he gazed out, he could not shake the feeling that the real work was just beginning. Illyria appeared beside him, her presence calm and steady, like a rock in the storm. The Queen had always been composed, but Adam could see the weariness in her eyes, a fatigue that came from leading an empire through war and uncertainty. Still, she stood tall, as always, the weight of her responsibilities never truly showing on her face. "You've done it, Adam," she said quietly, her voice a soft whisper in the stillness of space. "The galaxy is safer because of you, because of what you've done." Adam didn't turn to face her right away. The praise felt strange to him. He had always been a soldier, someone who fought in the trenches, who lived for the fight. But this victory, this war, had been different. It wasn't just about survival or defeating an enemy. It was about protecting lives, about forging alliances, and above all, about trust. "I couldn't have done it without you, Illyria," Adam said, finally turning to meet her gaze. "You taught me more than I could ever have imagined about leadership, about strength, and about heart. Without you, I would have been lost." Illyria smiled, a rare and genuine expression. "And without you, Adam, this empire would have fallen. Your heart, your courage, and your willingness to fight for what's right, those are qualities I've never seen in another." Adam felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. The Queen, the ruler of an empire, was acknowledging him as her equal. It was humbling. He had gone from a soldier on Earth, unsure of his place in the galaxy, to standing beside Illyria as an ally, a friend, and a leader in his own right. "So, what happens now?" Adam asked, his voice thoughtful. The war was over, but the journey wasn't finished. There was still so much to be done. The galaxy had been saved, but there were wounds to heal, relationships to mend, and a future to build. Illyria took a step forward, her gaze fixed on the stars outside. "Now, we rebuild," she said firmly. "We will strengthen the alliances we've made. We'll protect those who can't protect themselves, and we will ensure that what we fought for, the peace, the unity, the trust, never fades." Adam nodded. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges. There would be new enemies, new threats. But for the first time, he felt ready. The galaxy was no longer an unknown, distant place. It was a part of him now, and he was a part of it. "We'll do it together," Adam said, his voice steady with determination. "Humanity and the Xenovarian Empire, together." Illyria turned to face him, her eyes shining with quiet confidence. "Yes, together. We will show the galaxy what it means to stand united, and we will make sure that no enemy, no force can ever tear us apart." For the first time in his life, Adam truly understood what it meant to be part of something larger than himself. It wasn't just about fighting battles or winning wars. It was about protecting the future, about building something worth fighting for. And in that moment, he knew that, no matter what came next, he was ready to face it. As Adam and Illyria stood side by side, looking out at the stars, they both knew that their journey was far from over. The future of the galaxy, of humanity, and of the Xenovarian Empire was in their hands. And with their strength, their hearts, and their trust in each other, they would make sure it was a future worth living.